Hello all, welcome to the Mobile Device Manager Plus training. My name is Naveen. I have been working on the support side for the Mobile Device Manager Plus product for 2 years now, and I would be your trainer for the day. So this is our training schedule. We have app management and device security that we would go through today in the free training section, followed by which in next week's section, we would go through device enrollment and provisioning. So let's take a look at our training agenda. First, we would go through an overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product, followed by which we would go through managing your business critical applications. The reason why we go through this particular section is because your mobile devices are dominated by applications, and these applications hold corporate or sensitive data. So it's always key to protect this data at any cost. So we would see how you can, keep these applications updated and protect your data as well using the MDM solution. Followed by which we would take a quick look into device security. Security aspects like tracking and remote troubleshooting your corporate devices, containerizing a particular device so that your data does not leak, and also securing your misplaced or lost devices. Since I hail from a support background, I've gone through numerous scenarios or the customers have reached out to me with various requests, saying this has not worked, that has not worked, how can I achieve this? So we would discuss on some scenarios and also some questions that were asked during the previous training day session. And, I can help you out with the best practices during this training itself. So our first topic for the day would be overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So we would go ahead with the supported operating systems. So we support famous operating systems like your Android, your iOS, your Windows, even your Chromebooks as well. We manage Android tablets, your Mac machines, your Windows tablets, as well as your Windows 10 laptops. Your iPads, as well as your iOS devices are also managed by the MDM solution. So how is the MDM available? Well, the MDM is a standalone product, which is available in both the on-premise as well as the cloud edition. It is available as an add-on along with our flagship product called as Desktop Central. To give a brief heads up on what Desktop Central is, Desktop Central helps you to manage your legacy Windows machines. So managing your Windows, Mac, and Linux base using Desktop Central, managing your mobile devices using Mobile Device Manager Plus as an add-on would give you a complete UEM software. So our UEM edition would be with the Desktop Central. And for our MSP clients out there, we do have the Mobile Device Manager Plus MSP edition as an on-premise solution. And now for the integration. So integration, again, is a key part when it comes to managing, say, any company altogether. So you have help requests that are dropped in and you would like to perform actions from those integrated products itself. So we provide integrations with ServiceNow, Zendesk, Service Desk Plus, which is our internal application, and Spiceworks, well-known ITSM tool management tools. And we also provide integrations with Zoho Creator and Zoho CRM, which are our sister products as well. And for API key integration, which is available in the on-premise as well as in the cloud edition, wherein you can integrate the MDM with any third-party solution if it has all the necessary means and opportunities. And now for the architecture. MDM has a pretty standard architecture out there. We have three components, which is the MDM server or the service that is provided by us, the notification services that are provided by the OEM vendors, which are the Apple push notification services for iOS, Firebase cloud messaging service for Android, and the Windows notification services for your Windows-based devices. And the third component would be your mobile devices itself. So the communication cycle is as follows. The MDM service leverages on your notification services in order to wake up your mobile devices. So if you're going to push out any apps, everything would happen through your notification service. And once an app installation has been completed, your managed mobile devices would go through your MDM server directly. So it would not reach your notification services, it would directly reach the MDM service. So in the case of an on-premise solution, in order to secure your MDM server, so as I mentioned, mobile devices are always on the go. So they won't be connected within your corporate network like a desktop or a server machine. They would be connected to multiple different Wi-Fi terminals. So in order to reach that, you would have to expose the MDM server. So if the MDM server is exposed, certain companies might feel that their data is not protected. So we have a security add-on feature called a secure gateway, which helps you to forward the request from the mobile device to the MDM server itself. So thereby it's a security component. And again, another part that I have missed out is the Active Directory. So you can integrate the Active Directory with the MDM solution for device enrollment and provisioning opportunities. And now for the ports used by Mobile Device Manager Plus products. So if you are using the on-premise edition of the MDM, ports and the communications are really important. If you're in the cloud-based edition of the MDM, you guys are having a fun time. You don't have to set up the server at any time. You can just go ahead and start enrolling the devices itself. But in the case of on-premise, you guys should open an inbound port to your server, which is the 9383 for device to mobile device manager plus server communication. And the other ports out there are for the rest of the services as well. How does the MDM manage the mobile devices? Well, we have talked about the architecture, but when it comes to management, the Android devices would have an MDM application. The MDM application would be the device administrator app, and it would have all the administration capabilities. While for your iOS, Windows, and Chromebooks, we would make use of the native client that is provided by the OEM vendors itself. So before we step into app management, I would like to take you through how the MDM portal looks like. So this is the MDM portal. You have numerous tabs over here, right from Home tab to Support. Home is just a predefined page with all details like the enrolled devices, platform summary, app summary, etc. You have device management, where we would be dealing today's free training a lot. So we would talk about profiles, application management, remote control. So all these cool features, we would be discussing on them under the device management tab today. We have inventory. So any device that you enroll would come up over here, and you would have the entire inventory details of that device, installed applications, certificates, location data, everything can be seen under this inventory tab. And on next week's session, we would deal with the enrollment side. So actually the enrollment would be the initial phase for enrolling mobile devices. So BYOD corporate, the enrollments, we would discuss more on these types of enrollments in the next week's session. And at last, you have the miscellaneous tabs like reports. It can be a serious tabs for logistic companies to pull out reports of the devices itself, whether we are running the right applications, what are the device models that have been enrolled with the MDM, etc. And in the case you are an on-premise user, you would have to go through certain prerequisites or setups, I would say, for your MDM server. So those setups are your NAT settings. So you'd have to make sure that the MDM server is mapped to a public FQDN. As I mentioned, mobile devices would always be outside roaming in different networks. So you would have to mention a public FQDN for your server machine, which has the MDM service, so that your mobile devices can reach or contact the server itself. You can set up the proxy settings if you'd like. If certain proxies are set up in your firewall, you can go through the proxy settings as well, and you can set up your mail server. So your mail server settings can also be done, and the reason is because if you would like to send out an enrollment invite to your user, or if you'd like to obtain reports on a scheduled basis, that is the mail server that we would use. So this is pretty much the setup of the server itself and a quick overview of how the MDM looks like. And we would dive into our first important topic of the day, which is app management. So MDM deals with installing and managing your business applications. By managing, we would update the applications, we would remove the app, we would install the app as per our needs. How does the MDM app management work? So, just out there, any device that you own right now, it just does not run like your Windows machine. So it needs some application. It can be an enterprise application, it can be a Play Store application. Something must be present on the device to get your work done. So we have the app repository. The app repository holds your store-based applications or your enterprise applications that you would distribute to your mobile devices. So in the case when you are distributing a store-based app, we would leverage the store services to install the applications. But if you are going to distribute an enterprise application, and I would say that you can upload your own APK files or IPA files on the MDM server, which means without the requirement of any store services, you can install your enterprise applications with the help of the MDM server itself. So let's go through some scenarios and see how you can deploy your applications. So let's take, for example, I know I am right now managing the mobile devices of my company. A particular data comes up with their iPhone. They're like, mate, I need to enroll this iOS device with the MDM solution so that I can get certain applications. So first we would go ahead with the enrollment. And for that, we have something called SDAPNS certificate. So we would deal with the enrollment part in the next week's session, but let's see how, you can deploy your application itself. So we would come to a phase wherein the device is enrolled, and now we would have to deploy the application itself. So under the device management tab, I would move over to the app repository part. So under the app repository, I would click on Add App. So it's just an Apple Store application that they would like. So I click on Apple Store app, and then I would search for the application. So the application the sales representative requires is the Zoho CRM application. So you would see that we have scanned for, or searched for all the applications from the App Store itself due to the direct integration. And when you click on Zoho CRM, automatically the bundle identifier and the Apple App Store ID would be filled out. And if you're from a different region, you can also select the region if the application developer has made some changes for that specific region alone. We also have some app policies that you can go through, whether you'd like to remove the application when the device goes unmanaged, which is a definite yes, and whether you'd like to restrict the backup of the app data in iTunes or iCloud, which again, in my case, is a definite yes, because I don't want the backup of my application data to be on a third-party service. And at last, we have the configurations. Managed configurations are nothing but the changes or the predefined changes that can be applied on an application itself. So if an app developer has allowed certain changes to be made when an application is installed, you can drop in those app configuration details over here, and we would automatically deploy the application with the configuration itself. So now that I've added the application, this would be your app repository. I can filter out the application as well. So I can filter out the application, and then I can distribute the app to the device. So here under device management, we have something called as groups and devices. You can either choose one single group and deploy the application so that all the users or all the devices in that group would automatically get the application, or you can go for a device-based deployment as well. So I can just choose one device and I can distribute the application to that device itself. So if I'm going to choose this device, which is an iOS device, I choose Action, Distribute Apps. I have all the applications listed out over here. So I can choose the application that I would like to distribute. So I can choose the application that I would like to distribute. So I click and the Zoho Mail application. And here we have two installation types. One would be to manually install from the app catalog, which we would see right now. Another one is silent installation, something that we would deal with in about, say, 5 minutes time from now. And we also have another option to notify the users that an app is available through email. So they would already get a notification on their devices saying that, an application is available. But, if they're busy, they're working on a machine, you can send out an email as well, telling them, hey, I've distributed an application, you can download it from there. So if I click on the Zoho Click Team and I hit on select, the application will be successfully distributed to your mobile device. And this is what happens on the mobile device itself. So the sales rep who came up to me has to open the MDM application. They would have to click on App Catalog. The application would be listed out over there, and then they would have to click on Install, followed by which they would be asked to sign into their iTunes account. Once that is done, the application would be installed and it would be a managed application. So this is pretty much the common app, deployment type that anyone would use. You don't require, some might say, we don't require an MDM to do this. If all the devices would have a personal account, then the user would have to manually install the application. Well, this would suit in a BYOD scenario, but what if, your end users are not technical? They are not used to, working on mobile devices extensively, or say you need to distribute apps to multiple devices. So right now we just distributed to one BYOD device, but what if you'd have to distribute the same application to hundreds of devices, corporate devices that you have provided to your end users. And that's where the automated app installation techniques would come into play. So for the respective OEM vendors, we have the Apple Business Manager for the iOS devices and the Play for Work solution for your Android devices. So what are the benefits of configuring an ABM or Play for Work? So first, we can build our own app repository. So I can approve any applications that I like from the respective stores, followed by which we can prevent the users from installing any other applications from the App Store or the Play Store itself. So I can force the installation of the applications. I can also build my own repository, and I can also prevent the users from installing any apps on their devices. We would take a quick look at what Apple Business Manager is. So for Apple Business Manager, again, the benefits are you can whitelist and approve applications. You can manage the licenses. So in the case of Apple, you have a lot of paid applications. So you can manage the licenses of your paid applications as well. And you can also control the app updates as to what version can be distributed and what version can be held back. So the prerequisites for acquiring your Apple Business Manager solution would first be to create an account with the ABM service itself, and then your devices must be supervised. So supervision is a term that we use in the enrollment side. So in the case of a corporate-based device that is enrolled using your Apple Business Manager, it would be termed as a supervised device, which means you as a corporate company would have complete control of your corporate devices. So we would talk more about this in next week's session. So I hope you guys would join in on next week's session as well. And for the next part is how the ABM works. So let's assume that you have integrated the Apple Business Manager server with the MDM. So we have the Apple Business Manager server integrated with the MDM. We can purchase or approve applications from the ABM portal. So they have their own app store under ABM, Apple. And once those applications are approved, you can then distribute the apps. So once the apps are distributed, the apps get silently installed on the devices itself. So let's see how an ABM portal looks like. So this is how the ABM portal would look like. And you would have to integrate the ABM service with the MDM. So before integration, it would be something like this. So before the integration, under your device management app repository, here you would have an option saying configure apps for business. So if you click on that, you'd have to add something called SES token, which is nothing but the server token for your service itself. And you'd have to select the app installation type as without Apple ID. So many might ask, where can I get this server token? So this server token can be obtained from the Apple Business Manager portal itself. So here, down at the bottom, under the settings, you would have the server token under apps and books. So settings, apps and books, you can download the server token. And once the server token is downloaded, you can upload it on the MDM service. So your MDM service would look something like this after the integration has been completed. So here you have your Apple App Management page with all the applications synced and the organization details mentioned correctly. So once that is done, it's all about approving the application. So you'd move back into the Apple Business Manager portal. You would click on Apps and Books now. You type in Zoho CRM. The Zoho CRM application would come up. You'd click on the application. You would check whether it's device assignable, and then you can go ahead and purchase the license. So if it's a paid application, you can pay the price. If it's a free application, you can just mention the quantity and you can get the application itself. So once that is done, all you'd have to do is just sync the VPP apps. So when you sync for the VPP applications, we would go to the ABM service and collect all the application details that you have approved right now. So this is a manual and a forced sync at that moment. An automated sync would also happen at 11 p.m. your server time, and we would fetch the details every day. So once the application have been added, all you'd have to do again now is to distribute the application itself. So I'm taking the same device again, and I can click on Actions and Distribute Apps. Now, instead of going for the manual app installation from App Catalog, I can choose the application and click on Silent Installation. So since I've approved the application from the respective ABM store, I can perform a silent installation on the device itself. And this is what happens now on your iOS device. User would not have to navigate to any app catalog or the MDM app, put in any iTunes account. Automatically your apps would be installed on the device. So this is how fast the ABM app deployment process is. So certain recommendations from our end is to ensure that the devices are always connected to a Wi-Fi in the case you are going to deploy any large applications, because by default, your iOS and your Android applications would install if they're 150 MB or 200 MB above. That's the threshold. They would download only when it's connected to a Wi-Fi solution. Now that we have seen how you can manually, install applications or silently install applications on the device, it's now the time for your app updates. So I've installed an application, but why do I need to update an app? So the updated version might be a patch for some serious issues. So I don't have to talk about, app drawbacks over here. There are a lot of applications out there these days. If I may use WhatsApp had a huge bug. A few releases back, the application was crashing on most of the Android as well as your iOS devices. Or sometimes it might be the other way around. They release a latest version of the application, and that would have some serious, bugs that might affect your productivity as well. So to control these app updates, you can approve the applications from the Apple Business Manager store, and you would have to check whether that application is device assignable. The same would apply for your Android devices as well. So I'm just taking the Apple Business Manager as a reference over here. So for checking to see if an application is available for update, we would post a banner. So under Device Management tab, App Repository, you would post a banner over here. So you can click on the number, and you would get all the applications that are available for us. So if you click on the know that two application or two devices or three devices do need the latest version of the application itself. So I do see that one device is on the latest version, so it's just two devices that would require the latest update. So I click on update all, I click on install update immediately, and I would update the application. So this would push out the latest version of the CRM application to all my devices, and that too, it would install silently on the mobile devices itself. So your app updates, again, what we provide is we can restrict the users from updating the applications, and we can also force critical app updates on the devices. So as I mentioned before, you can force the update on the devices itself. And now for Google Play for Work. So we have been talking about Apple, Apple, Apple all this time. So let's focus on Android devices now. So Android devices, Google has let out a feature just like your ABM called your Play for Work solution. And the prerequisites are you can create an account for the Google Play for Work. It could be a regular Gmail account. It's free of cost as well. And I would like to mention the ABM service. Sorry for introducing this here right now. The ABM service is a free service as well. So you can sign up for your Apple Business Manager for free. And the prerequisites for Play for Work coming back would be the devices must be running 5.0 or later versions. The Play for Work is again similar, as I mentioned, to your Apple Business Manager service, and it is the service for silent app installation for your Android devices. So the workflow is again similar. You can integrate the Play for Work server with the MDM. You can purchase or approve applications, and then you can distribute the applications to your devices itself. So it's as similar as your Apple Business Manager solution. So this is how your Android for Work solution would look like if you have not configured it. So if a company is using a G Suite service, they can configure the Android for Work along with their G Suite account. Or if a company is not using G Suite, which is Google's AD services, you can register without a G Suite option, which means it would just ask for a regular Gmail account. So make sure that you guys create a regular Gmail account for your company itself so that anyone can have access to that particular account. And the reason why we mentioned that everyone should have access to a particular account is because only then would the administrators or the technicians be able to approve the application. So let's see how we approve apps and also integrate the Play for Work solution with the MDM. So once you click on register with our G Suite, you would be taken to this particular page. You would click on sign in. You would mention the email address to be used. Click on get started, mention the organization name, read the terms and conditions, which we never do, and click on confirm. Once that is done, you would complete the registration and your service would look something like this. So once you complete the registration, it would be something like this, and we would mention the type as well, whether it's a G Suite account or a non-G Suite account. So once that is done, it's all about approving your application. So you would move to a particular site called as play.google.com/work, which is nothing but your Google Play for Work solution. So it's kind of like your Play Store, but it's like the business Play Store that Google has provided. All you'd have to do now is search for the same application again, Zoho CRM. The application would come out. You would click on the application, click on approve, and you would approve the app. So once you click on approve over here, you would go into the app repository under your Mobile Device Manager Plus product, and you would sync for the Play Store applications. So this would fetch all the latest applications that you have approved. And once the applications have been fetched, you can then sort them out over here. So you'd have all the applications listed out. And now all you have to do is just distribute the application. So now I would like to distribute this application to all my users, or say all the devices under a particular group. I can do that as well. So I can choose a group. I can click on actions. I can click on distribute applications. I can search for Android, Store app, free app, click on the IBM Verse or the Gmail application, hit on silent install, and then click on select. So this would automatically distribute the application to my groups itself. And this is how the app installation would look like. First, the Google Play services would add something called as the work account. So it's like the dummy account that would act in the user's stead and would install the application itself. So once the work account is added by the Google Play services, we would then install the application that has been distributed. So over here, you have seen that the app has been downloaded, no credentials required, and it would fall inside a container. So all these small boxes that you see, this is the BYOD container. We will talk more about this in the coming slides. And you can also see that I can control the app permissions. So app permission control is also a key part under your Android devices because at times any application can have access to any details of the device itself. So you can make some changes wherein you can make some configuration changes or some permissions whether you'd like to allow a particular permission or not for your Android applications as well. So the next case would be your enterprise applications. So take, for example, your enterprise apps are not hosted in any stores. We can't go and pay these stores to host our enterprise applications. It's just for our company alone. So how can we trigger a silent installation of the enterprise apps? So for that, your devices must be supervised. So this is only in a case wherein you would like to trigger the silent installation alone. And your Android devices must either be Samsung devices or must be provisioned as device owner. I'm sorry. So device owner is a status that is equivalent to your supervision status, wherein your company would have complete control of your corporate devices. So all I have to do in this case is to come down to the MDM portal. I would click on Add App. I would click on Add Enterprise Application. I can choose the APK to be uploaded. So I can click on Choose File. So this would automatically upload the APK to my service itself. And voila, I think the Windows services is making a fun over here. So just give me one moment. Ah, thank you, Windows. So I click on the APK and we will start fetching the APK itself. I'm sorry that my machine is a bit slow today. So now that the APK has been uploaded, it would automatically identify the bundle version or the bundle identifier, the app version as well, and you can also choose a display image. You can also mention an application name, and the application would be stored in your service app repository over here. So you can filter for the particular application as well. And if you would like to, update the version to the latest version, you can modify the app as well. So you can upload the latest version of the application and automatically we would fetch the next version. So previously it was in 1.0. Right now the version is 2.0. So if you'd like, you can retain the same name. As mentioned, you can have a display image. You click on save, automatically the app would be updated on the app repository and you can distribute the application update silently to your devices as well. So we have talked about app deployment, manual installation, silent installation, your enterprise application. So if you guys have any questions, you can raise it to the chat team. So we have a chat team that is available to answer all your questions. So if you have any doubts, any questions on what we have discussed to now, you can raise it to the chat team and they would help you out with all the details. And if you'd like some in-depth look into how the MDM can perform a lot more actions based on your company scenario, you can also request for a free demo as well. So we do provide free demos to our users. So you can sign up for a demo or request one to the chat team and they can help you out in scheduling for a demo as well. Now to continue on with the presentation, I met with a new requirement. say I would have to whitelist only specific applications to be present on a corporate device itself. And that's when the kiosk mode would come into play. So the kiosk mode is a functionality that we provide wherein you can lock down an entire device to run only a single app or multiple applications. And you can also prevent the user from configuring the device details. So this is available in all of the OS systems that we support. Let's take a scenario over here. I am moved to the logistics division of my company. I would have to maintain the mobile devices that are assigned to my truck drivers. So there's a supervisor and there are some truck drivers who go out for delivery. The supervisor has just one application on his or her device to assign the trips, and the truck drivers would require the maps application for navigation and the internal application for the trips that are assigned. So in order to achieve this and to lock down the devices, I would have to create a kiosk profile. So for that, I would go to the device management tab, profiles, and I would create an Android profile. So all my company devices are Android. I would click on Android profile over here. I would move down to kiosk mode. And for my, say, supervisor, I can just mention the Z delivery application since that's the only application that they are going to use. I can also take the liberty to configure, or to show how the configuration would work for your multiple application kiosks for your drivers as well. So you can mention the maps application as well as the Z delivery app. So both these applications alone would be present on the device. You can place some device restrictions, whether they are allowed to, expand the status bar, whether they are allowed to, use the power button, volume button, everything can be restricted. You can also enable the custom settings application. So do mention, or I would have to say that we have not added the settings app. So in which case the user would not have access to any settings at all. So in the case they would like to make some changes, you can enable the custom settings application as well. And at last, we have the advanced settings wherein you can enable the default application. So if you'd like to have a default application popped up on your kiosk screen, which can be, the internal application, you can mention the application over here as well. And we enable it for you. Always make sure that you save a profile and publish it. Let me provide the seconds over here. I would save and publish the profile. And all I have to do now is to associate this profile to my group. So to my group of users, I just click Actions, Associate Profile. I would search for the profile itself, and I would distribute the profile. So this means that all the devices now would, under this particular group, would now get the respective profiles itself, and their devices would be locked down. So the devices would look something like this. Your supervisor's device would be locked in a single app kiosk. Your driver's device, in another case, would be locked with the Maps application along with the Z Delivery app. So one day the supervisor comes up to me and says, hey, Naveen, I would like to know the last known location details traversed by my driver. So he'd just like to cross-reference, the details of the trips that were assigned. All I'd have to do is use the geo-tracking feature that is provided under the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So here under inventory, we have something called as geo-tracking. So here I can set the tracking details, whether I would like to track all the devices, whether this tracking has to be applied for all the devices or only selected groups, and whether I would have to enable the location history, which is a must in my organization because I need to keep track of the devices when they move from one location to another. So once that is done, I will click on Save Changes, and these changes would be applied for my entire scenario. And here I click on Location Data. Automatically, it would resolve the Zoho Maps, and I would get the last known location details of my managed mobile devices. So this is the particular user who I'm going to track. And if I click on Location History, I would get the last known location details of that particular user, where they have traveled, at what time have they stopped, at what location. Everything can be obtained in this particular last known location history itself. And if you'd like, you can also obtain or export this particular sequence as a report as well. So the last known location details or the location history can be exported in the form of a CSV, and you can upload it on Google Maps if you'd like for more better plotting. So I would just provide this CSV file to my users itself, whether you'd like to have the complete location or whether you'd like to have only the coordinates alone. So my next scenario is in a case, let's take for example, there is some issue with the corporate device. The application is malfunctioning. Your device is outside in the field. It's not with you right now. It's somewhere outside in the field, and the field agents are not, technically adept. If the application fails, they would not be able to, sort out as to what the issue might be. So that's when the remote control feature would come into play to help you to remote into the device so that you can take a look as to what is happening on the device itself. So the same application, Sam, or the same device, who Sam is owned by Sam. I don't know why he keeps coming up with all these issues. He has reported that the application is malfunctioning. So I can remote into the device itself. So from the Actions tab, I can remote into that particular mobile device, and I can take a quick look as to what has been configured on the device and what is causing certain issues. So I can make use of all the action buttons over here. You can see the device is locked in Kiosk, which means I would not be able to perform my task. So I can pause the Kiosk mode as well. So I can exit -Kiosk, which would remove the Kiosk mode from the device and would allow me the ability to go ahead and take a look at to what is allowed on the device itself. So here I can find all the application details. I can search for the application. I can click on messages if I'd like, open the messages application, and go through his messages, which is a breach of privacy. So yeah, whatever. So, but you can take complete control of the device itself, which is the most important part. So you can go ahead, take a look into the log files of that particular application, and sort out all the necessary actions as well. So once that has been done, all you'd have to do is just resume the kiosk mode again. So I click on enter -kiosk, which would resume the kiosk mode on my device. So this makes sure that I don't leave Sam's device, to be open. I would again lock the device in kiosk mode, and he or she would not have access to any of the applications that are on the device itself. See, the kiosk has now been resumed successfully. And once the remote troubleshooting session has been completed, you can click on End Now, and this would complete the session itself. So the remote troubleshooting is done through our sister product called as Zoho Assist. You can also trigger a remote control session from your device management remote control tab as well. So it can be performed on each and every device individually from the inventory tab, or you can initiate a remote control from the device management tab as well. So this brings us to our next scenario. So the supervisor's device that we are talking about is locked in a single app kiosk mode, which means it has to stay within the organization premises. It's not a requirement for the supervisor to take out the application or take out the device and move it back home. It should stay within the company premises itself. And we have brought in a new feature that can help you out, in maintaining the same compliance policy, which is creating a geofencing area. So you can create a fence repository, or you can create a fence wherein, say, take for example, if I'm going to choose a particular location over here, I can make sure, so it's right in the middle of the forest, but yeah, I can make sure if my devices move outside of this particular fencing area, I can trigger certain notifications. So it's an introductory level feature. So I can mention all the fence name, and let's just assume my office is sitting right in the middle of this forest. So I can place certain fence policies over there. So fence policies like I can immediately notify the administrator, hey, that device has moved outside of the fencing area. I can also execute a command, which is the loss mode, which would lock down your entire device and the end user would not have access to the device contents. And after a day, if that particular user is not going to return the device, I can also wipe it. So it's all in a case wherein whether you'd like to perform an action on or not. So we have just released this feature, so it's just an introductory level release. We would also be bringing in a lot of changes as well. So I'm hoping to see, the time fencing or the time fencing policy by the next training session, so that we can also apply the profiles based on time. So that is the feature that we are working on right now as well. So this would again satisfy my business use case, and I can make sure that my supervisor would not have the access to the application even if they take the device outside of the organization premises. Next, we can take a deep look into how you can protect your data from data breaches. So data breach is a huge thing right now, and data can be breached by the most common means and methods out there. So you can transfer the data between devices using AirDrop, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, etc. You can upload your data to third-party services, storage services, and it can also happen between applications. So you would have distributed the Microsoft applications as a corporate app, but your personal applications would still have access to those details. So to prevent that, we have the containerization in place, wherein we separate the device into a personal space and a corporate space. So for your BYOD devices, we would create a container wherein all the Android applications will be present. It's an encrypted container, and there will be no data sharing between the container applications and the personal applications whatsoever. So copy paste everything would be completely blocked. But in the case of an iOS device, the devices are already encrypted. Apple and their security. So the devices are already encrypted, so you can't add another layer of encryption. So this is how your applications would look like on the UI level. You would have the personal apps as well as the corporate apps all listed like their regular applications. So if it's like this, and I've configured the email services on the device, and if I get a notification, say from my manager, I can open that document pretty much with my personal applications or share it with AirDrop, which is not, the policy that some companies should have. There should be some kind of restrictions. So in that case, I can go ahead and create a profile and make sure that my corporate data stays within my corporate applications itself. So I create a profile for my iOS devices. Here under restrictions, I can restrict a lot of options. I can restrict AirDrop services. I can restrict the users from using AppPrint or iMessage as well to share the details. I can also prevent them from sharing the data between the managed and unmanaged applications as well as the vice versa task. So this would create a container on your device. So do note over here, I have prevented the sharing of data between my managed applications and my unmanaged applications, which would pretty much box all of my managed applications. And once this profile has been distributed to the device, and if I try to open, a particular document from the email, it would only show the Office 365 application or the MDM app. So this would bring me to my next topic because the MDM app has the ability to read your documents. And that's why content management is now a feature under the MDM as well. Content management would help you to securely distribute your documents to your devices. The users can only view and save the documents using the MDM application. So no other third-party application can have access to the documents that are distributed through the MDM service. And you can also update the documents as well. So I would show you how you can perform these tasks. So let's take a scenario over here. The sales team again comes up to me and says, blah, 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 they need some confidential documents prior to a meeting. So all I'd have to do is to upload a document and distribute it to their devices. So here I would come down to the device management tab, content management tab over here. I would click on add and I can add any document I would like from these supported files. If you'd like some extra extensions to be added, you can request us as well and we would help you out with those extensions. So I click on this particular action over here. I click on this PDF, open, and automatically this PDF would be uploaded to my service. So once that is done, I can add a description as well as a tag. And if I click on done, this document would now be added over here and I can search for it using the tags as well. So once this has been completed, all I'd have to do now is to share this document over to my sales teams. So I can click on this document, hit on share, and I can share it either to an entire group of the sales team or just to the devices alone. And once that is done, the rep would only have to open the MDM application. You would have the Documents tab, click on the Cloud button, and download the document itself. So the same action would be on your Android device, and you can view the document within the MDM application. The scenario has now changed. They have made some last minute, terms and condition changes in the document. So I'd have to update the doc and then send it out to the end user. So all I'd have to do is to just click on the same document, hit on modify, and upload the latest version of the document itself. So I click on the latest version of the document, and once that has been uploaded, I can then remove the tag or add the tag. And if I hit on modify, this document would now be updated automatically on all my devices. So if I click on OK, automatically the latest version of the document would be distributed to my devices itself. So this would cover the content management tab. And a fun part is that you can distribute video files and pictures as well. So I've seen a lot of NGOs come up to us and ask, hey, can you upload certain video files over to the server and distribute it to our, services or mobile devices out there? You can. It's not just for documents. You can distribute videos and pictures as well through the content management tab. The last part would be the bare metal provisioning or something like automating your OS updates, since mobile devices do come with the OS installed in them. So first, we would take a look at what are the disadvantages. So you'd be missing out on some serious security patches every 3 months, if I would say Android releases a security patch. So you'd be missing out on the security patches, and older OS versions tend to get slower with time. So you'd have to update to the latest OS version so that the processing speed would be matched. But if you are going to deploy the OS to all the devices at a single time, there will be a huge loss in productivity because everyone will like, yeah, it's a 1.5 GB update. It might take at least an hour or so. And your enterprise applications might be incompatible. So to give a quick heads up over here, when iOS upgraded to 11.0, a lot of applications were in the 32-bit, and iOS 11.0 required all the applications to be in the 64-bit, which caused a huge havoc, and a lot of enterprise applications were incompatible. So to prevent that, you can also prevent the users from updating the OS version on the devices, which can be done. And the next thing would be bandwidth choking. So take, for example, there are 500 devices, Android or iOS. You're going to update the OS version in all the devices at one single time. It will not be just one 1.5 GB file. It would be 500 into 1.5 GB files, which would mean your network would take a huge toll. And to overcome that is why you would have to schedule and automate your OS updates. So let's see how you can schedule and automate an OS update. So here under device management, we have the automate OS update part. You can create a policy for your Android devices or iOS. It's as per your needs. So I have choose the Android policy, and I can deploy the OS version immediately as soon as it's made available by Google, or I can delay it for quite some time. So I can delay it for up to a maximum of 90 days so that I can have my internal team work on certain applications. So after that, I can also make sure that I can notify the users that an app installation or sorry, that an OS update is available for them, and I can also allow them to skip the deployment if they're working on some important tasks. I can also schedule the deployment as well. So it should only take place on the first weekend. I can make sure that the OS update would only happen on the weekend when the devices are connected to their home network. So if I click on save, this policy would be saved and I can distribute this policy to any group or device that I have added to the service. So I can either push it to the entire users group, so any device that my users have enrolled, everyone would get the OS update policy, or if I can target this OS update policy only onto a particular number of devices, I can also choose the devices and deploy the policy. Advantages are it's a one-time setup since the policy would be applied on the device. You have options for an immediate, delayed, and a window deployment. Users get notified and they can also skip the updates as well. So all these opportunities are available. And for the last topic of the day would be to secure your devices when they are lost. So all throughout the session, we have seen how you can deploy applications, save your corporate data, prevent users from misusing the mobile devices. But what in the case they have lost the mobile device? That's when the loss mode would come into play. This is where we would secure your devices so that none of the corporate data would fall in the wrong hands. And to enable the loss mode, you would move into inventory. So Sam again has lost his device right now, so I'm going to enable the loss mode for his particular device. So here under actions, as you can see, I can perform various tasks, right? From scanning the device to check and see if it's online, remote locking it, triggering a remote alarm, or even wiping the device. So complete wipe would wipe the entire device and reduce it down to stock. Corporate wipe would just wipe your corporate details alone. Any applications, those details alone would be wiped. You can also clear the passcode or reset the passcode at any time if the user has forgotten it. And you can also locate the device at one particular instant, and you can also enable the loss mode. So now I'm going to enable the loss mode on the device itself. So I click on enable loss mode. I mention a contact number. I can mention out a new passcode if required and click on locate. So this would immediately start locating my mobile device and the device would be locked. So now that the device has been locked, I can trigger a remote alarm. I can corporate wipe, complete wipe, or I can even remove the loss mode if I have obtained my device back. So I can click on stop loss mode and I click on stop loss mode, and now the device would be removed from the loss mode itself. So as simple as it is, you can lock a device and you can unlock a device, and this would give you complete access to the device itself, which means all of your corporate data would be secured. Now for some scenarios and solutions. So the first scenario, is there a way by which I can remove apps that are previously available in the devices? Do note that these applications are not installed through the MDM. So if an application is installed through the MDM, you can just remove it from the device itself. So under the groups and devices, you can choose a particular group, and if the group does have an application added to it, you can remove it at any point of time. So it's your use case as to how you'd like to go forward with it. But if the application is not added by the MDM, then you can blacklist the application itself. So here under inventory apps, we have a list of all the applications that have been discovered on a device. You can mention a particular setting saying that you can uninstall the applications immediately if I have marked them as a blacklisted app. So if I'm going to choose this Finder application, I can blacklist the application for all the devices. Let's go ahead with the presentation. Scenario 2 is where I can prevent my users or I have to prevent my users from accessing any websites that they like. So all I have to do now is under device management, I would create a profile which has a specific option called as restricting users from accessing any websites, or otherwise called as web content filter. So I can restrict or mention the URLs. I can blacklist those URLs or whitelist only specific URLs. So in the case of whitelist, only these URLs would be accepted. In the case of blacklist, only those URLs would be blacklisted. So by configuring this, I can make sure that my end users do not access any website that they like, and I do still provide them full internet activity. Scenario 3 is my workforce is extensively mobile and we would like to secure it with certificates. So this would mostly fall into the case again under your profiles. You can choose a particular profile and you can distribute your certificates to the devices as well. So it can be a common certificate, say in the case of your Exchange Active Sync mail service or other enterprise applications which would have a common certificate to authenticate with the server itself. You can add it over here, or if it's going to be user-based certificates, in the case of VPNs or Wi-Fi, if each and every user is going to get their own certificates, you can configure the SEP and distribute user-based certificates to your devices. And if in a scenario wherein you'd like to route all of the device communication through a secure proxy, you can set up the global HTTP proxy as well, and all the device communication, be it mobile data communication, Wi-Fi communication, app communication, everything would go through this particular proxy server alone, which means you can place some restrictions or you can whitelist specific URLs over here again, which would be applied for the entire device, which means it would affect your applications as well and not just the browsers. Scenario 5 is where the employee has hard reset his or her device and the device is now locked with their Google account. So in the case of an iOS device, by default, if it's a corporate device, we would remove the Find My iPhone feature, which means that they cannot lock a device with their personal iCloud account. But in the case of Android, since it's completely controlled by Google, we have an alternate solution, which is called as configuring the EFRP. EFRP is nothing but factory reset protection prevention. So all you'd have to do is just add a corporate Google account over here and obtain the account ID from the Google services as well. And you'd have to apply this profile to the device. So in the case some employee gets mad, they get they just hard reset the device just to give you guys a tough time, and they're not going to share their Google account with you since they have been kicked. You can enter your own corporate Gmail address and unlock the device itself. And now for some questions that were asked during the previous training session. One of my employees have forgotten their passcode. How can MDM help me out with this? So it's pretty simple again. You go to inventory. Sam again has an issue with the device, so all I have to do now is to either clear the passcode for him so that he can set up a new passcode, or I can just reset the passcode for him so that next time when he forgets it, I can remind him that, hey, 1234 is your passcode. You can set higher passcode restrictions as well if you'd like. Question number 2, we are a logistics company and we provide Android devices, and we'd have to make sure that the drivers do not turn off their location services. This can again be done by the profiles itself. So profiles are an extensive part of the MDM. So I click on the profile that would be distributed to my drivers. I'd go down to restrictions over here, location settings, and always on. This makes sure that the location services is always turned on in the device, and I can track these corporate devices each and every time they move, and they would not be able to turn off their locations. Does MDM allow me to share contact details over the air? Yes. For Android devices, it would be done through the Google Calendar. They don't have any other specifications. You'd have to go for a third-party app. But in the case of your iOS devices, you can go ahead and deploy certain configurations. Configurations like your contact sync or your calendar sync or your LDAP sync. Everything can be done through the MDM itself. You just mention the respective details. So if it's going to be a calendar sync, you just mention the account type, account name, port, and the URL from where you would have to obtain the calendar. We would automatically display the calendar and the contact details on your iOS devices itself. So I want to ensure the IT approved applications are not removed by the users. This again is an action of the profiles. I can go to restrictions. It can be for an Android or iOS applications and prevent the users from installing any apps that are not approved by me, and also preventing them from deleting any applications as well. So both these operations can be configured so that my users are forced to work only with the applications that are provided. And the last question would be to ensure that my employees are connected only to the corporate Wi-Fi. So in this case, first you'd have to set up the Wi-Fi configuration so that they automatically connect to this Wi-Fi itself that you have mentioned. And then you can place a restriction under restriction, network and roaming, wherein the devices do connect to the Wi-Fi only if it's distributed via the MDM. So this is only in the case when the devices are going to be within the corporate network itself. And once this profile is distributed, your devices will only be connected to the secure Wi-Fi itself. So this brings us to the end of the presentation. Do rate us on a scale from 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. So this would encourage us a lot to provide more free trainings and cover more topics on the sessions as well. You can spread a word or share some love on the social media sites. I would be waiting to see if someone would tweet out regarding this free training. And our next training is scheduled for August 1st, 2019, same time, and it would deal with device enrollment and device provisioning. Thank you guys for your time a lot. I do hope to see you all in the next training session. Thank you.